Hey, I'm V. Today I thought I'd share a little bit about how I got the neo soul tone for one of the latest up videos that I did. I did that using the podgo and following the steps that I normally take. The first one is just try and listen, and also a little bit of Googling just to figure out what kind of ingredients are going into that tone. The second thing is figuring out, based on the tools that I have, what's the closest emulation of what those ingredients are. And then the third thing is then dialing it in to taste. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, so let's jump into Podgo Edit and I'll show you a little bit of what I have set up in this tone. So if we go into here, into my Neo Soul vibes, so one of the first things that I did was I added for a bit of modulation. So I ended up going for this grey flanger. I didn't make any changes to the actual sounds in there. I quite liked how it was sounding straight away when I popped it on. I was playing around with this, and I think the pedal phaser I was mucking around with, but in the end I picked the grey flanger because I just thought it sounded just a little bit more neo-soul-y. I don't know. The second thing I did then was I added in some room reverb. Now I added in this dynamic room. Reason for that is it just sounded a little bit more, I don't know, full, and it just sounded really nice with the style that I was going for. Now when it came to choosing the amps and the cab, I did cheat quite a lot there, and I went to Professor Google and just asked what's the amp or the cab that tends to be used for Neo Soul when it comes to the Podgo. So they were recommending this Line 6 litigator, which as soon as I put it on, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what the sound is that I'm looking for. And then for the cab, they recommended this one here, this Jazz Rivet one. And again, that sounded, as soon as I turned it on, you could just hear the sound difference. Again, I didn't make many changes to that. As soon as I put the amp in and the cab in, it just sounded really right in my ears, so I didn't make too many more adjustments to that. The next thing that I added is just a tiny bit of distortion. So nothing too intense, so I didn't want to add like, I don't know, a tube screamer or anything like that. What I ended up going for is this Minotaur. And I really just liked the clean sound that was coming through there, just adding a little bit of that boost, which sounded really nice. And then the second to last thing I added onto it was a compressor. Now, this is where I did refer to Google a little bit and just said, what kind of ingredients goes into a Neo Soul vibe. And it did mention compressor, and for Podgo I was recommending the Rochester compressor, so nothing scientific about it. I just chucked it on, sounded good, away we go. The last thing I added was an equalizer, just a simple equalizer in there, and I had a little bit of a play around with this one. So this is what kind of shaped it a little bit, because I found that the sound sounded quite trebly, so the high frequencies were quite sharp. So what I did was just had a play around with this a little bit and just brought down some of the high gain, brought up the mid just a tiny touch, again, just to balance out those tones. Now, I'm not an expert in any of this, and I also know that it's probably not perfect. I think somebody who really knows what they're doing will probably go in there and do a few different things. But for me, it just sounded really good and really right for what I was playing. And in the end, isn't that what matters? I'm still learning, but I'm really enjoying the process of trying to figure out different tones and how to make it really work and record some good sounds coming out of my guitar onto video. If anyone out there has some suggestions for me, then please drop it in the comments, because I'd love to hear from you. I am learning, so any suggestions or feedback or thoughts in how to do a bit more efficiently or better, or anything else I should be thinking about, then I'd love to hear from you. So if you're interested in this kind of stuff like I am, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.